You think being rich is a number, a figure in a bank account, a car in the driveway, a house with your name on the deed. But imagine you wake up tomorrow in Mogadishu, holding more money than almost everyone around you, and you slowly realize that none of the old rules of wealth apply here. In Somalia, being rich means something the rest of the world has almost forgotten. Let's start with the number because the number is where the story breaks. The average person in Somalia lives on around $625 a year. Not a month, a year. That is one of the lowest figures on the entire planet. In many wealthy countries, people spend more than that on coffee in a single year. So here, you don't need $1 billion to be rich. You barely need a fraction of one. If you earn what a mid-level office worker earns in London or New York, you are not just comfortable in Mogadishu. You are aristocracy. You are standing at the very top of a very tall pyramid, looking down at a country where most people are still fighting for the basics. But here's the first strange thing. The richest people in Somalia did not get rich the way you might expect. There's almost no oil money flowing here. There are no giant tech campuses. There is no roaring stock market handing out paper fortunes overnight. So where does the money actually come from? It comes from movement, from the simple ancient act of moving things from one place to another. Consider Abdurrashid Douale. He runs a company called Dahabshil, and his fortune is estimated at around $950 million. He is, by most counts, the richest man in the country. And he built that empire not on diamonds or data, but on trust. His company moves money, billions of dollars, sent home by Somalis living abroad, passed hand to hand through a vast web of agents that stretches across the entire world. Think about what that means. In a country where the formal banking system collapsed for decades, one of the largest fortunes was built simply by being the person everyone trusts to carry their money safely. Then there is Ahmed Nur Ali Jimale, worth around $700 million. He co-founded Hormuud Telecom, and Hormuud did something quietly revolutionary. It put a bank in everyone's pocket. Have you ever paid for something with your phone? In Somalia, almost everyone has. The country has one of the highest mobile money usage rates on Earth. Somalis make roughly 155 million mobile money transactions every single month, worth around $2.7 billion. Nearly 3 out of 4 adults use it every day. The beggar on the street corner takes payment by phone. The woman selling camel milk takes payment by phone. The taxi driver, the fruit seller, the mosque collecting donations. Cash, in much of the city, has quietly started to vanish. So, if you are rich in Somalia, your wealth is not stacks of paper hidden in a safe. It is a number on a SIM card. It is digital, weightless, and it moves at the speed of a text message. But money is only half the picture. The other half is what that money has to survive. Because here, wealth has enemies. Imagine you have made your fortune. You have the home, the cars, the business. Now, ask yourself a question that almost never crosses the mind of a rich person in a peaceful country. How do you keep it? In Mogadishu, the wealthy do not simply drive to dinner. They move in armored cars. They are flanked by guards carrying AK-47s. The most exclusive hotels in the city, places like the famous Peace Hotel, are not marked by chandeliers and red carpets out front. They are marked by blast walls, steel gates, checkpoints, and men with rifles scanning every vehicle that approaches. Security here is not a luxury add-on. It is the foundation that everything else sits on top of. The single most valuable thing your money can buy in Somalia is not a faster car or a bigger house. It is the ability to lie down at night and sleep without fear. Stop and think about that for a moment. In most of the world, the rich worry about losing money. Here, the rich have spent decades worrying about losing their lives. Wealth makes you a target. The bigger the fortune, the brighter the target painted on your back. And yet life goes on, and it can be genuinely beautiful. Picture a Friday afternoon at Lido Beach. The sand curves in a long golden arc against the warm Indian Ocean. Coconut palms lean over open-air restaurants. The wealthy of Mogadishu sit at white tables under the breeze, sipping sweet Somali tea, cracking open fresh lobster that was pulled from the water that very morning. Children splash and shriek in the waves. Young men play football on the wet sand. For a few hours, the war feels very far away. This is what rich looks like here. Not loud, not gold-plated. It looks like the freedom to enjoy an ordinary, peaceful afternoon in a place that has known far too little peace. But let's go back to that fortune of yours, because there is a much deeper twist coming. In most of the world, when you become rich, you become more free, more independent. You can fly away, cut ties, live behind a tall fence, and answer to no one. Money becomes a door that lets you walk away from people. In Somalia, wealth pulls in the exact opposite direction. It chains you tighter to everyone around you. Here's why. Somalia runs on remittances. Somalis living abroad send home around $2 billion every single year. Let that sink in. That is more money than the entire national government's budget. About 4 in 10 households depend directly on money sent from a relative overseas. That money pays for school fees, for medicine, for rent, for the food that goes on the table tonight. Now imagine you are the one who made it, the successful one, the rich uncle, the cousin who did well. You do not get to keep that wealth quietly to yourself. The moment people know you have money, the requests begin, and they never stop. A cousin needs surgery. A nephew needs school fees. A distant relative needs to fix a roof before the rains come. A whole village suddenly remembers your name and your face. In a society built on clan, on family, on deep webs of obligation, your bank balance is not really yours alone. It belongs in a quiet and unspoken way to your entire bloodline. So what does it actually feel like to be rich in Somalia? It feels like being a bridge. Money flows in through you, and money flows out through you, and your unspoken job is to keep that current alive for everyone downstream. The respect you earn from it is enormous. People rise when you enter a room, but so is the weight you carry. Have you ever felt responsible for one other person? Now imagine being responsible, financially, for 50, maybe 100, and imagine that responsibility never going away, no matter how tired you get. Let's talk about where the new money is going, because you can actually watch it rising up out of the ground. Mogadishu is being rebuilt. Between 2020 and 2025, more than 6,000 new buildings went up across the city. Apartment towers, hotels, shopping malls, wedding halls, glass and concrete climbing into the sky over neighborhoods that were nothing but rubble and bullet holes not long ago. Much of this is driven by the diaspora, by Somalis who fled during the worst years of the civil war and are now returning with savings, with foreign passports, and with a fierce hunger to rebuild the place they came from. This has created a strange new problem, a real estate boom, unlike anything the city has seen. Land in parts of Mogadishu has become shockingly expensive. Prices in the best areas can rival those in major Western cities. A returning businessman carrying diaspora dollars can buy a plot and simply watch its value climb month after month. But a teacher who never left, a nurse, a civil servant earning a modest local salary, is now priced completely out of his own city. The same boom that builds the gleaming skyline also pushes ordinary families further and further toward the edges. So wealth in Somalia is not just a matter of comfort. It is increasingly a matter of geography, of who gets to live near the beach and the bright new towers, and who gets quietly pushed out to the dusty margins. And there is another layer to being rich here that the cameras rarely capture. The things money has to buy that you would never even think about. Take electricity. In Somalia, there is no single reliable national power grid humming in the background of your life. Power is sold by private companies, generated by diesel generators, and it is among the most expensive electricity in the world. So, part of being rich is simply being able to keep your lights on, your air conditioning running, and your home cool through the brutal heat while others sit in the dark. Take water. Take healthcare. When a wealthy Somali falls seriously ill, they often do not go to a local hospital. They board a plane to Nairobi, to Istanbul, to the Gulf. Health, real health, is something the rich here import from other countries, one flight at a time. Your money does not just buy a doctor. It buys a passport stamp and a seat on a plane out. And education works the very same way. The children of the wealthy are frequently sent abroad, to Turkey, to Uganda, to Malaysia, to the West, to study in places far from the disruptions back home. To be rich in Somalia is, in many ways, to buy your family the option of leaving whenever they truly need to. The poor are rooted to the ground. The rich keep one foot in the country and one foot in the sky. Now let's turn to something you can see glittering at every Somali wedding. Gold. For Somali families, and especially for women, gold is not merely decoration. It is a savings account you can wear. At a wedding, a bride may be given heavy gold jewelry, sometimes worth thousands upon thousands of dollars, draped around her neck and stacked along her arms. This is not just for beauty. It is security. In a country where banks failed and currencies collapsed and paper money lost its meaning more than once, gold held its value through every storm. It cannot be switched off. It cannot be hacked. It cannot vanish when a government falls. So part of old Somali wealth still hangs, warm and gleaming, around the necks of mothers and daughters, portable, personal, and ready to be turned back into cash the moment hard times come knocking. And underneath all of it, beneath the phones and the concrete and the armored cars and the gold, the oldest form of Somali wealth is still beating like a steady heart. Animals. Livestock makes up around 40% of the entire country's economy, and more than half of everything Somalia sells to the outside world. Camels, goats, sheep, cattle. Every single year, especially in the season before the great pilgrimage to Mecca, millions of live animals are loaded onto ships and sent across the Gulf to buyers in Saudi Arabia and beyond. For thousands of years, a Somali's wealth was measured in animals. A man with 100 camels was a rich man. Full stop, no further questions asked. A camel was a dowry, a peace offering, a status symbol, and a bank account all at once. And in much of the country, far from the city towers, that has not changed at all. So picture the strange truth of it. The herder watching his camels move slowly across the dry red land is part of the very same economy as the telecom founder in his glass office tower. One man holds his wealth on a SIM card. The other holds his wealth on 4 legs, walking patiently across the savanna under an enormous sky. 2 completely different worlds. One country, and money flowing between them in ways that would baffle almost any outsider who tried to make sense of it. There is one more thing you would feel as a rich person here, and it is harder to put into words. It is the feeling of being watched. Not by enemies this time, by expectation. In a society this tightly woven, generosity is not optional. It is who you are. When there is a wedding, you are expected to give. When there is a funeral, you are expected to give. When the rains fail and the animals begin to die and famine creeps across the land, the wealthy are expected to open their hands and help feed people they have never met because they share a clan, a town, a name, a bloodline. Your reputation, the single most precious thing a Somali can own, is built almost entirely on how you treat the people who have less than you. A rich man who hoards is not admired. He is despised. A rich man who gives, who builds the mosque, who digs the well, who quietly pays the school fees of 20 children, becomes something close to a king, not because of what he owns, but because of what he gives away. So let's return to you. To the fortune you imagined at the very start. In Somalia, you would be powerful. You would be respected in a way that few rich people in the West will ever truly experience. Because your money does not just buy things for you. It keeps actual people alive. It pays for the surgery, the school, the wedding, the funeral, the journey out when the danger comes too close. When you walk into a room, people feel the sheer weight of what you carry on their behalf. But you would never be alone with your wealth, not for a single day. You would never be free of it. Every dollar would tie a string to someone who needs you. Every success would ring a phone somewhere with a request you cannot bring yourself to refuse. You would buy your safety with blast walls and armed guards. You would buy your health with plane tickets. You would buy your children's future by sending them far away. And you would pour the rest, again and again, back into the hands of the people standing behind you. That is the secret the rest of the world has slowly forgotten. We turned wealth into a wall, something to hide behind. Something that quietly separates us from everyone else, that lets us close the gate and look away. In Somalia, wealth is still a thread. It pulls people together instead of apart. It makes you responsible. It costs you peace and privacy, and the simple, ordinary luxury of being able to say no. You thought being rich was a number. But in Somalia, being rich is a duty, a target, and a lifeline, all carried at once, by someone who is never, for a single moment, allowed to forget the people standing behind them.